Bon dia a tothom. Buenos días. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the official announcement event of the third UNESCO World Higher Education Conference. It is a pleasure to have all of the authorities here, all of you here in this magnificent Paranymph of the University of Barcelona. I'll pass the floor over to the rector, precisely, of the University of Barcelona. Please, Mr. Joan Guardia. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Lafuente, Councillor, Mayor, Presidents, rectors in the room, people with us this morning. Welcome, all of you, to the University of Barcelona in the Paranymph of our university. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you here and a source of pride as this third World Higher Education Conference starts at the University of Barcelona. Talking about higher education means talking about sharing. It means opening the focus, opening our perspective to other experiences and facilitating that all of the knowledge is disseminated. And what would be a better place to start than this, in this emblematic space? And as it sometimes happens, education at all levels isn't always treated with the care and attention it deserves. Probably none of us would be able to be here today holding this event without the trust that has been placed on us in being trained and prepared with a good package of knowledge and scientific rigor that turns us into free citizens or freer citizens. So choosing this venue to inaugurate this third conference, it is not chance, it is not a coincidence. This building, this university, has suffered, just like many other educational institutions, the consequences of abandonment, lack of respect, and apathy vis-a-vis a word which is as important as education.
It's a space for the most relevant and distinguished academic events of our university life. It's the space where degrees are awarded, and we understand it as the space that symbolizes all the activities that take place at the university and representing all the people who make it up. This is why it is so important for us, for you. Following the idea of the architect Rougen to make an expressive architecture, we wanted to stand out above all, and for that, this space was built in the center of the architectural composition, just above the entrance hall, and giving a completely different air compared to the rest of the building in terms of decoration, creating a space of great decorative exuberance that creates a strong contrast with the austerity of the rest of the building. The first opening ceremony of the academic year held in the Paranymph was in 1872. And during 2022, we will celebrate it. All of you are invited to the celebrations. It was just built in 1884, with the last intervention being the placement of the 6 history paintings related to the research, higher education, and the university in terms of the Spanish Kingdom understood as a unit, which decorate and at the same time project and reinforce its ideas. The education is the center of the symbolic message of this building. the education in the center of the human future. In short, the university building is complex to define, but the eclecticism, the influence of Catalan medieval architecture, and the influence of the first Italian Renaissance are the basic style characteristics of this building. The mixture of styles symbolize also the forced tolerance between the various ways to understanding knowledge, without the result being other than that of harmony. The education is also harmony. The building was largely abandoned in the early 20th century and during the years just before the Spanish Civil War. But the board of Autonomous University, name that we adopted in that period, took over some renovations. Again, it is the university that come to the rescue of the building. Again, the university come to rescue of higher education. Josep González and Francesc Perales were the architects in charge, who carried out mainly remodeling of the outdoor space, some classrooms, on the basement where new spaces were created, such a new library. During the Civil War, the building suffered some damage due to bombing. Between 1939 and 1945, therefore, the damage was repaired. Josep Domènech Mansana was the architect who renovated the grid hall, the column hall. The analogy is simple. Education always ends up appearing after barbarism. No hi ha cap espai a la ciutat com aquest.
There is no venue in the city such as this one. Someone said it was the like cathedral, and it is a source of pride for us to place it at the service of our city, of our country, and such an important topic as is the UNESCO World Higher Education Conference, because talking about the future is impossible if we do not talk about education. Thank you very much and welcome all.
Moltes gràcies, rector. Dono la paraula al
Thank you
senyor
very
Javier.
much, Rector. And now I'll pass the floor over to Mr. Javier Lafuente, Rector of the Autonomous University of Barcelona, Chairman of the CUP and the GUNI National Network. Subdirector General of Education of the UNESCO, Minister for Universities, Mayor of Barcelona, Chancellor of Universities, Rector of the University of Barcelona, Chairwoman of the County Council of Barcelona authorities. Good morning. Today is a day of joy and gratefulness. Joy because we are announcing that next May, Barcelona will be hosting the 3rd UNESCO World Higher Education Conference, a world conference celebrated approximately every 10 years to analyze the status of higher education in the world and to set goals and guidelines for its process. For the first time, the conference will be held outside of the headquarters of UNESCO in Paris. UNESCO has trusted our country and our city, knowing our university tradition and placing a special trust in the GUNI network for its development and organization. This trust fills us with joy, but at the same time, with responsibility. And from this venue, I would like to express our appreciation to the UNESCO, our honest appreciation for having chosen as a strategic partners for the celebration of the conference. And we are positive that we will work tirelessly to provide specific responses and proposals to progress higher education around the world. Thank you very much, Stefania Giannini, for your trust and that of the entire human team of UNESCO. I am positive that we will not let you down. We would also like to show our appreciation to the institutions of the state and Catalonia who have shared this joy from the very beginning and have shared our vision to support the candidacy of Barcelona. Central government of the state, the Catalan government, the town council of Barcelona, the Deputy of Barcelona, together with CUNY and CUP, we have created a formidable workspace and a complicity so that this World Conference is a true success despite the current difficulties of the current context, as we all know. Thank you very much, Minister Manuel Castells, Jim Malays, Victoria Sina Councillors, Ara Colau, Mayor, and Nuria Marin, President. Without your direct support, we wouldn't be here today. As you know, we live in a transforming world, economical transformations, social, technological transformations, and even cultural transformations with global challenges that may leave us shocked and static, seeing their magnitude and speed: climate change, inequalities, poverty, migrations, globalization, work markets, in continuous and deep transformation, disruptive innovations in the technological sphere, which have even made us rethink what is actually human. Deep crisis of liberal democracies, the rise of xenophobic, neo-fascist power, fake news, and also a society and economy which are more and more based on knowledge and talent. I've always defended that universities should become key institutions in this new society, this new knowledge society. But in order to lead the society of the future, universities need to rethink themselves to a great extent. We need to bring them much closer to real problems of the economy, society. We need to commit directly, and we need to engage citizens in its actions, and its mission of training and creating knowledge should be used to transform society. This is the spirit that drives us from the GUNI network. From GUNI, we would like to help build a quality university, but at the same time committed to social progress, both globally and locally. And in the context of our decades, committed to the 2030 agenda of the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Created in 1999 after the first World Higher Education Conference of UNESCO, in order to conduct the follow-up of the resolutions, the GUNI network has a mission of strengthening the role of higher education in society, contributing to the renewal of its visions and policies throughout the world in terms of public service, relevance, social responsibility, and innovation. In these near 20 years, GUNI has consolidated as one of the think tanks with a greater international influence in terms of university policies and management of higher education. As of today, as we know, it groups together 250 associations of 80 countries around the world, and we are proud to see how this is a very well-represented network in regions such as Africa, Latin America, or Asia. GUNI develops a series of activities and projects that I don't have the time to introduce now, but I would like to share a moment with all of you and to share its goals and mainly its values. The goals of the network are generating and sharing knowledge on higher education policies at a global scale, promoting the knowledge society by means of the strengthening of the systems and the organizations of higher education in favor of progress, well-being, and culture, providing support to government institutions for the advancement of higher education and scientific research and innovation, accelerating the implementation of the 2030 agenda and the SDGs in the higher education institutions and systems, and encouraging academic and scientific diplomacy to promote multilateralism and international cooperation. These goals of the network are always based on the foundational values, which stem from UNESCO in and of itself. The values are defending and promoting education, science, culture as key tools for human and social progress, sustainable development, multilateralism, international cooperation, and democratization. The independence of the university and academic freedom, the social commitment of higher education institutions, promoting diversity, equity, equal opportunities, and defense of the dignity of human beings, as well as multidisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity.
As I said a minute ago, we are going through times of great transformations, and universities should be privileged spaces for critical analysis with scientific rigor, with concentration and collaboration, and with a mid and long-term perspective for the creation of talent and new knowledge, for the promotion of the culture and the arts. But universities have to rethink themselves and will have to rethink themselves thoroughly. This is why from GUNI we are drafting a new world report, New Visions for Higher Education Towards 2030 is the title of it, which will be officially presented in the framework of the UNESCO World Higher Education Conference in Barcelona. We would like for this report, with contributions of worldwide experts, we want for it to be a useful tool, a living knowledge tool for political and public action throughout the world. In this regard, let me also publicly thank the La Caixa Foundation and the Research and Universities Department and Foreign Affairs Department of the Catalan government for their direct support to the report. As I said a moment ago, the World Network GUNI was born right after the first higher education conference in 1999 to perform the follow-up of higher education throughout the world. And now, 22 years later, we are proud to be able to help bring the Third World Higher Education Conference bring it to life in Barcelona, and we will follow up university policies and the management of higher education around the world as per the 2030 agenda and the Sdgs. Thank you very much for your attention.
Moltes gràcies, rector. Dono la paraula.
Thank you very much, Rector. I'll pass the floor over to the Mayor of Barcelona, Ms. Ada Colau.
Benvolgut rector de la Universitat de Barcelona.
The Rector of the University of Barcelona, Minister for Universities, Subdirector General of Education of the UNESCO, or Assistant Director General, sorry, Rector of the Autonomous University, President of GUNI, Counselor for University and Research, rectors, authorities, friends, good morning and welcome to the city of Barcelona. Please allow me to go away from the script a little bit before I start, because from Barcelona, as a mayor, I would like to send my condolences to the family members of Almudena Grandes. We've lost a wonderful writer this week, and thousands of readers in the city of Barcelona are weeping for her untimely death. A great writer and a woman deeply committed to feminism and historical memories. I would like to send our condolences from the city of Barcelona, because I know at the cemetery of Almudena there are many people gathering to say their goodbyes. And for Barcelona, I would like to thank you on behalf of the city for having chosen our city as the venue of the UNESCO World Higher Education Conference of 2022, especially knowing that we are the first city that you chose to meet outside of Paris, where the headquarters of UNESCO are. So welcome all. And as a city of Barcelona, we believe that this is not a coincidence. We think this proves and confirms a track record as a higher education, science, culture, and knowledge city. And it has not always been the case, or some tried that it weren't the case. We are here at the historical seat of the University of Barcelona, University Square, University Metro Stop, this metro station, this old building. But during the dictatorship, those who did not want critical thinking or democracy saw this university as a danger and a challenge for authoritarianism and the dictatorship, and they wanted to take students away from this area, and the university area was created to take the rebels, the critical thinkers, away from the historic center of Barcelona. But they did not manage to do that. They did not succeed, not only because the University of Barcelona has consolidated and has continued to grow at our historical center, but because we are a university city where all universities have consolidated, have grown, and have projected into the world, working as a network amongst them and with the research centers of our city. So we are very proud of having these very active universities, very well-connected universities that at the same time are increasing their presence in campuses and universities in all districts of the city. So we can say that, yes, Barcelona, contrary to what some would have desired, those who did not like critical thinking, today more than ever, we are very happy to be a university city, a city of research and creation of knowledge and critical thinking. And currently, the universities of Barcelona host 400 of us amongst the best in the world. We have 2 business schools in the top 20 of the world, and Barcelona is now the second most attractive world destination with scientific research centers as per the Global Cities Investment Monitor of 2021. So we are proud of this balance, these figures, not as a competitive advantage only, but because we're really interested in this, because it defines us as a city, because it defines our priorities, our vocation, and because science and knowledge, of course, help us have a better life, and they are drivers of human progress. No global challenge can be resolved with a clear contribution of the scientific community, and at the same time, research and science on their own are not enough. They need to be based on solid principles and values of social commitment, cohesion, justice, solidarity, and sustainability, and in order to use knowledge to these ends. We have very recent and current examples. One is, of course, the pandemic, where thanks to research and cooperation between research centers all over the world, we've had vaccines in a record-breaking time, vaccines that should reach the entire world, because otherwise we will be clearly failing as a human species. In Barcelona, we already said this in April this year. Last April, we met with experts from the world of research, top-level doctors and national doctors, well-known entities in the field of NGOs such as MSF, to say that this is truly a joint responsibility, that these research efforts should reach the entire world so that we can continue making progress together. And another great challenge that shows us the evidence of the importance of this research is clearly climate change. Science has clearly and repeatedly proven that it exists due to an economic model and a production consumption system that damages people and the planet. It generates precariousness, and it makes it impossible to host life in our planet. Despite the efforts of the scientific community, there isn't yet a clear line of the different countries and authorities, but we need to persevere because knowledge needs values, so that the dream of reason does not, or the sleep of reason does not generate monsters. We want for it to generate progress. And we want to work for well-being of those who need it the most. We want to fight for sustainability and equity. But if we talk about higher education, we cannot either forget that we need to talk about all knowledge. We are more than ever aware of the fact that we are a planet in which we are all interconnected countries, human beings, and knowledge in its different sides and disciplines has to be experienced and understood with a greater understanding of social, humanistic, and artistic knowledge, which is as essential as scientific knowledge. This is why we cannot and we do not want to dissociate science from humanities. This is a mistake that impoverishes science, humanities, and the contributions to human progress. And I would like to also say that philosophy should be again in the curriculum of higher education, of secondary education. We need knowledge and thinking. They are not the same thing, even if they are sometimes associated. We need to link knowledge to critical thinking based on evidence, precisely in order to fight one of the evils of our times, which is attempts at manipulation, false beliefs, fake news that systematically feed polarization and anti-democratic positions. And I would like to, as a cultural and scientific capital, I would like to talk about the biennial of thought that we promoted together with Jan Subirats also here, and that has already been held on 2 occasions, and also the biennial of city and science to incorporate science into the improvement of our well-being and to better face the challenges we have ahead of us. And of course, if we talk about higher education research and values, a key aspect is the equity and equal access to this and knowledge, and in higher education in particular. Knowledge should be accessed by all, not just the ones who can afford it. We are unfortunately still far from that goal. Formally, there are equal opportunities, but not in practice. And this is why I would like to thank Minister Castells for his efforts in increasing the amount of grants associated to financial hardship, as well as the reduction of taxes, because I think it is essential to advance in terms of equity, justice, and real equal opportunities, not just formal equal opportunities. In Barcelona, we're also proud of working with all of our universities that I thank because of how much they've welcomed the Prometheus program that we started promoting in the Raval neighborhood, precisely because we saw that the neighborhoods that needed higher education the most are the ones who were doing it the least, precisely because of this situation of social and economic injustice. Let me just give you a few figures, because I think we should express them. Only 10.6% of university students in Barcelona come from a working class family versus 54.7% from upper class and the rest of middle classes. It is more likely for these students from working classes to stay behind, and these difficulties are also based on gender. Women. Last year in Catalan universities, we almost had 50-50 women, men, 45% women, 55% men. But in the category of professors, university professors, we still have 70% men, 22% women. And these are also data of the UNESCO saying that currently less than 30% of researchers throughout the world are women. As the first female mayor of the city of Barcelona, I think it is my obligation to stress the data and to say that it is our joint goal to change them as soon as possible. And I'll finish. Higher education should reward effort, but it happens in an unequal world where the balance between effort and reward is poorly distributed. Unfortunately, for many people, too many people, millions of people in the world, studying is still an unattainable goal. Even the most basic levels of education, and even more difficult if we talk about higher education. And even more so if you're a woman, and even more so if you come from a country without basic rights or welfare state. So the statement, if you want, you can, is a fallacy to a greater extent for a big amount of the population, because there is no meritocracy if there is no equity, equality, and democracy. A more equitable society will make a better use of all of its human capital, talent, and we all come out winners. So going for equality and justice is also an act of collective intelligence, so that we do not lose talent. And our responsibility, especially that of elected officials, but also everyone in education, is working to reduce those inequalities and facilitates that everyone can have an education if they want to, and that they can do so throughout their life. I hope that in this third World Higher Education Conference, this task will be very fruitful, and that you'll be able to go deeper into these and other key challenges to make higher education into a lever of social change, of broadening of rights and welfare and well-being. So thank you very much on behalf of the city of Barcelona. Thank you very much for choosing us. This confirms us as scientific, cultural, and university capital, and we will accept this title with pride and a lot of gratefulness. Thank you very much.
Moltes gràcies, alcaldessa. Dono la paraula a la
Thank you
presidenta.
very much, Mayor, and I'll pass it over to Núria Marín, President of the Barcelona Provincial Council.
Bé, bon dia a tots i a totes.
Good morning, everyone. Rector, we are delighted to share this event in this wonderful venue. Minister, Mayor, Secretary of Education of UNESCO, Councillor, rectors, colleagues, dear colleagues of different institutions that are represented here today. And I would like to also especially greet all the people who are part of this presentation. As the president of the Barcelona Provincial Council, I am extremely happy to share this event representing the 311 municipalities of the province of Barcelona, with whom on a daily basis we try to work, we try to be next to them to work and make headway, and also to give equal opportunities to many, many citizens of our citizen villages and towns. Today, we feel especially happy and acknowledged. We believe that the efforts of our territory have been acknowledged in the educational sphere. The mayor talked about this. I think this is the acknowledgement to a very long and pioneering track record that has characterized us for a long time. A short while ago, a bit over 100 years ago, the Mancomunity of Catalonia, promoted by Enric Prat de la Riba, from the government of the Catalan Provincial Council, started a very advanced project that proposed innovative models to modernize our society, to incorporate a top-level education system with the highest number of citizens possible, male and female, because back in the day, we did not have the same rights. The Mancomunity brought this forward with this vision that has not lost strength, decentralizing production and dissemination of knowledge, professionalizing, and with a sense of collectivity in a vital sector that was behind. And the innovative projects came also with the long European track record, which is very old. Universities started in the Middle Ages as a network that extended throughout Europe, creating this itinerary of cities specializing in different branches of knowledge. This Europe of universities or university cities started as a precedent of the Europe without borders that has crystallized in the EU. And now, vis-a-vis the challenges of the sustainable development and the climate emergency, and while we tackle on a daily basis the response to this pandemic and the promotion of social and economic reactivation, we also focus on improving and strengthening higher education that we think couldn't be more timely. And we should do so with a democratizing and equitable will. And for that, the public initiative, I think, is essential. All levels of the government should be involved in the promotion of higher education, which contributes to responding to the huge global challenges of the 21st century. And I'm talking about all levels of the government, because the fact of having or not having university competencies in the end is secondary. Local governments, regional governments do not have these competencies, but we are essential territorial agents so that higher education can be carried out successfully. And we also need the rest of social agents of the territory, be they public or private. Universities are not closed cathedrals of knowledge. These are not ivory towers isolated from society. No, on the contrary, their task should have an impact in the transformation of society, helping the transformation of society and the surrounding territory. University centers work to generate knowledge, progress, inspiration for all people. These are centers that need both the theoretical reflection and the experimental and innovative work, as well as the contact with the territory and the reality of the cities and towns. And for that purpose, in the Provincial Council of Barcelona, we have been working for a long time on many projects that involve this collaboration with higher education centers. We do so, for example, with our municipal library network, which promotes the specialization of specific libraries with agreements with higher education centers and companies in the area, with the aim of generating interactions, positive and useful interactions, in which users also participate and benefiting all parties. This is just an example. We could give you more, but we do not want to miss any opportunities. We always want to strive for value added wherever it's needed, wherever we can get it. And this is a consequence of our knowledge of the value of co-governance, institutional cooperation, dynamization of a society which always has been defined by an entrepreneurial, democratic, and European will, a will that we have not lost and that we cannot leave behind at a crucial time for the European project, where sustainability, global sustainability, is threatened not just by the climate emergency, but also the rise of authoritarian regimes. Our territory cannot leave any opportunities behind, and it needs to strengthen the fields in which we have had top development to take care of our research centers, our labs, our advanced research centers. We need to give them enough resources. We need to make them attractive to talent. And in the end, we need for them to carry out the work successfully and so that the entire society can benefit from it. So I am happy that today we can present on behalf of local governments this third World Higher Education Conference of the UNESCO in our territory in Barcelona. We think it will be a very good opportunity to strengthen our role as the banner keepers of this advanced knowledge. Thank you very much.
Moltes gràcies, presidenta. Dono la paraula a la consellera de Recerca.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to the Minister of Innovation of the Catalan government. Minister. Good morning, one and all. Secretary Vilalta, you've been working hard, rector, deputy rectors, experts in the area of education, deputy director of UNESCO. Thank you very much for being here, Madam Stefanini Giannini, president of the Diputación, dear Mayor, Minister Castells. I would like to refer to Minister Alsina and her team. Her work has been key to make sure that this conference can take place. We are together working to make sure that Catalan universities are in an internationalization process.
And university, I would like to welcome you to this presentation event. I am very pleased to be here today. My presence is a confirmation of our continued commitment with a support to UNESCO. This support is a part of the Catalonia's multilateral action and is an example of the commitment of Catalonia with the United Nations and to its most upright and significant principles. Catalonia is a country traditionally committed to the construction of more fair and peaceful world order, which involves necessarily a commitment to multilateralism. We are convinced that today's global challenges cannot be addressed without a strong commitment to a more effective and inclusive multilateral system, ensuring the participation of all stakeholders at all levels. We want to assert on our country's commitment towards the founding principles of the United Nations, as well as our traditional European Mediterranean vocation. And we want to do it with words, but above all, with facts. I am proud that this UNESCO World Conference on Higher Education is held in Catalonia, in Barcelona, because this is a theme that we already know, that the day after, all indicators are confirming that in Catalonia, we have a solid and robust knowledge system. Our universities, our research centers, and our unique infrastructures are very well placed both in fundraising and international rankings. But we cannot be complacent. There are aspects that we need to improve. If we want to face up the future with guarantees and work towards a fairer, more cultural, more civic, more open, more competitive, and more democratic society. We live in a globalized world, and this is context, knowledge, and innovation are essential to improve the competitiveness of companies and development of people. We all know that the global markets and their expansion contribute to economic growth. However, this growth also encourages increasing differences between territories and therefore inequalities. Crec que la universitat té un paper clau en aquest equilibri al qual...
Universities play a key role in the balance that I mentioned before between the global scale and the local scale, and it should contribute to improving regional competitiveness by contributing to a balanced and fair society. It is key that all territories can put forward their own sustainable plans for self-development, and this has to be done on the basis of the interaction between cities, universities, and the business sector. We need to enhance the concept of citizens' science, the science held by individuals, and we shall never forget the commitment of social actors when it comes to identifying the main challenges faced, also when it comes to designing new social research processes. This is the way to give back society the resources that society invests in higher education, research, and innovation. As the representative of public and private universities of Catalonia, I would like to acknowledge the efforts deployed by the education community here and around the world during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, with a certain perspective, we need to be capable of choosing the path ahead in order to contribute to a more inclusive higher education that leaves no one behind. I would like to conclude by thanking warmly UNESCO for choosing Barcelona for the celebration of their conference. I am completely convinced that the high-level contributions in the conference will inspire us all in our mandates for the coming years. Our mandate is to ensure that higher education is based on high quality and on the grounds of sustainability. I would like to once again warmly welcome you to Catalonia and count on the Catalan government for your endeavors. Thank you very much.
Moltes gràcies, consellera. And now I give the floor to the
Thank you very much.
Assistant Director General for Education, Mrs. Stefania Giannini, please.
Buen día, buenos días, good morning everybody, Your Excellencies, Minister Manuel Castells, Ministra de Minister of Research and University of the Government of Catalonia, and Madam Mayor of the city of Barcelona, Ms. Ada Colau, Rector Magnificus of the University of Barcelona, Mr. Ordigardia, President of GUNI, Mr. Javier Lafuente, and President of Barcelona Provincial Council, Ms. Nuria Marin. Dear colleagues, dear esteemed participants, it's a great pleasure, it's a great honor for me to be here with you today to discuss, to present, to launch together with all of you an important event, which is not simply an event, as I've tried to explain. It's supposed to be a really turning point in the roadmap of global debate and thinking about the role of higher education and universities in a very fast changing landscape where knowledge, research, and solidarity in a new model of development we are all building together will have a critical role to play. Well, as you know, you mentioned many of you already, COVID-19 pandemic obliged all of us to change the way we are working, the way we are teaching, learning, the way we're living together somehow. And in education, which is, by the way, as we know, one of the main public sector being affected deeply by the pandemic, you remember, I'm sure, UNESCO numbers 1.6 billion students and learners around the world being out of school because of schools and university closures. Well, in education, we have a duty and a great opportunity, not only to address the main challenges of current times, but also to go beyond and to see how we can reimagine the model of teaching and learning in order to contribute to a better, more justice, more sustainable society. As the recent landmark report of UNESCO's International Commission on the Futures of Education, an initiative which is interested in being planned and thought 2 years ago, before the world changed because of the pandemic, we face a critical choice, a very critical choice. Either we continue on an unsustainable path in the business as usual, or we dramatically and critically change everything which is about, public policies and political leadership, political agendas, and also policies in education. Our deep conviction is that knowledge and learning are the ground, the real basis for renewal and transformation. And we are also convinced that higher education, that universities, places like this with a strong long-term tradition of students and researchers exchange, carries key responsibilities in making this happen. And that's what I would like to briefly focus and discuss with you, if you allow me. As you know, UNESCO, as the only UN agency which has a specific mandate on higher education, has played a decisive role through the history over the past decades in promoting equity and access, encouraging intellectual collaboration with some 800 university chairs in over 100 countries in the world, and also facilitating academic mobility. University will indeed play a vital role in forging a new social contract for education. And this is somehow the proposal which comes out from this report I just mentioned. But for this, to this end, higher education has to transform itself. It's about transforming internally in order to be able to contribute to the external transformation that society is asking for, that young people are asking for. To be more inclusive, to be more open, to be more innovative and resilient to respond to the current challenges. This third World Higher Education Conference will not be one of the many we can see around. This conference will set the course for the decade ahead and beyond. We are thinking of 2030, which is the deadline of a beautiful, amazing agenda that the UN proposed to political leaderships and citizens in the world some years ago in order to have a more sustainable society through 17 development goals. But we have to go beyond 2030 and try to think how universities, schools, learning, teaching will be from now in a 20, 30 years ahead. This conference will provide actually a roadmap for higher education, and it will catalyze a global policy dialogue in the form of a global conversation. That's the way we are thinking of, that's the way we are building with our experts present, some of them here today, and let me thank all of them. Engaging youth and forge new partnerships and alliances around higher education in the digital age. We are guided by some key principles that I would like to spell out very briefly. First, assuring the right to quality education throughout life. Higher education is part of the right education. It's not something in addition for some and not for all learners in the world. Second, strengthening education as a public good, as a public endeavor. This is very much important, especially now where many rights seem to be under threat. Third, putting equity at the core throughout every person's educational journey, from early childhood to PhD and beyond. Fourth, respecting academic freedom, which is something which is very much about freedom of thinking, freedom of being active global citizens. Fifth and last, harnessing the strategic role of higher education to accelerate progress towards 2030 Agenda development goals. And the world and higher education itself has gone through dramatic changes in the last World Conference there are two of them, 1998 and 29. It's another century, the first. It's still another world, the second one. Let me mention some big changes that we are still facing, and I'm sure all of you as political leaders, as intellectual leaders, are you thinking and working about. The first one, digital transformation. I mean, what we can do now, what we actually could do as university professors, let me put my hat, my real job in life, and as also international official through the last 20 months is about online platform. It's about assuring continuity of learning because there was this opportunity. On the other side, the digital transformation has advanced at vertiginous speed with some risks and some ethical concerns that we have to take into account. We see the opportunities as well as the challenges. And this is what governments are actually doing in what we call the digital transition. Second point, of course, it's about taking care of the planet more than ever. Climate change and environment puts the future in peril, requiring massive investment in innovation to transition toward zero carbon economies and to a different model of development. We were in Glasgow as UNESCO 3 weeks ago. We organized the very first ministerial meetings with ministers of education and ministers of environment in the same room like this, and they committed to put climate change education in curriculum development since the primary school to universities. Migration and displacement, which is still a big issue, not only in this part of the world, but globally. If globalization, to put it simply, was already reshaping our economies and societies, for sure, COVID-19 pandemic has acted as an accelerator. in both negative and positive ways, as it happens when there is a big change and acceleration. It has deepened inequalities, amplified our interdependence, and university and schools shut down nearly everywhere at the peak of the crisis. I already mentioned some numbers. Let me recall that our estimation says that today, 8 million of university students are at risk of dropout this year because of the economic impact of the pandemic. Technology has enabled learning to continue, already mentioned that, but it also been a strong determinant of whether students could pursue their studies or not. It depends on the regions of the world. It depends on having connectivity, access to the internet or not. And we know that more or less half of the world students' population don't have access to the internet at all. So the digital divide is part of the issues that we have to consider. Well, to cut it short, the global recovery depends on a new kind of collaboration and solidarity, on access to learning and on sharing research and knowledge widely and openly. So this is a time for the paradigm shifts we need, and it's the purpose of this conference to open doors to innovative and visionary models of higher education, to pave the way for future learning communities that overcome all barriers that still exist, speaking to all and being inclusive of all learners. Inclusion, openness, solidarity, equity are the very key words which are around the program of the conference. The conference is informed by key trends in higher education that I also wish to briefly highlight. Some 220 million students are today enrolled in universities around the world, a number that has almost doubled in the last 15 years, a number which is supposed to double again by 2030. So by 2030, we'll have some almost 500 million university students, which is more or less the European population. And the conference is for them, for these 500 million students in a 10 years time, for rising generation and for all those who aspire to pursue studies so that lifelong learning becomes an entitlement, really. Let me say very honestly, talents don't have a passport. Talents are everywhere. It doesn't depend on where you're born, your nationality, your ethnicity, your gender, your economic background. Talents is the most democratic skill and way and treasure we have in our hands, and we have to nurture. And one of the main purpose of education is about nurturing talent, unlocking the potential of human beings. And the presence of highly diversified provider now is not something which can help if we don't keep under a quality assurance system in order to be able to assure quality education for all at university level. More than 5 million about mobility. More than 5 million students are going abroad to study, compared to just 2 million in 2000, and placing recognition and mobility as foremost policy issues that the conference will address is another important dimension that I wish to highlight. As you maybe remember, UNESCO provided the very first international UN treaty in this field, the Global Convention on the Recognition of Qualifications and Degrees in Higher Education. We hope, as we need 20 countries ratifying the convention in order it can be put in practice, that this objective will be acquired before Barcelona 2022. Well, I now wish to turn briefly to higher education contribution to the SDGs, that of course, from UNESCO perspective, is one of the main topic of the discussion we are leading. As a lead up to this conference, UNESCO's Global Independent Expert Group has already very much worked on the 10 topics, which will be the main pillars of the recommendation on transforming higher education for global sustainability. And many higher education, we know, are moving in the right direction, but much deeper and far-reaching transformation is still needed. And this is something that I'm sure the conference will bring out very clearly. So it's about new knowledge, research, data to design solutions, more transdisciplinary approaches, including career development and recruitment of researchers and professors, because the global goals are all connected and universities should be veritable hubs for building more sustainable communities. The conference will also seek a common vision on how to make sustainability a core practice and purpose of higher education institutions, putting students in touch with real-world issues and immersive experiences. And this is very much about also changing the way we teach, the way we offer programs to students from the pre-graduates to the doctoral schools. Well, I wish to mention about openness and collaboration that I see as engines for a more connected university global network. Two main international instruments that member states had recently approved at the last General Conference in Paris: the recommendation on open science and the recommendation on ethics of artificial intelligence. These are the very first two recommendations that can provide a solid, robust basis in order to put in practice policy on this side. More widely, what we need today is a new culture of collaboration. It can be not only fostered through strengthened networking and partnership. Let me say that if the last century keyword in higher education was excellence, of course, still a very important objective, quality education and excellence, through competition between universities and academic communities, the key word of this century is cooperation and collaboration between different communities. And I think that finding the new balance between these two keywords, competing to improve, cooperating to find new models and to face the common challenges, is very much what we need to do together. To conclude, deseo expresar mi más profundo.
I would like to express my appreciation to the government of Spain, the Catalan government, the town council and the provincial council of Barcelona, and the technical group of experts. Together, I trust that this conference will contribute to creating a new social contract that we need not only for education, but for a more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient future. On the past 12th of November, in the framework of the holding of the celebration of the 75th anniversary of UNESCO, the President of the Government of Spain stressed that the fight against inequalities should become the key priority of all governments, guiding science and technology towards social progress, guaranteeing equal opportunities for all. This is the road towards peace that the composer Pau Casals, the Catalan composer Pau Casals, promoted throughout his life, being awarded 50 years ago with the Medal of the United Nations for Peace. So it is adequate that this historical city becomes the world capital of higher education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Estefanía Giannini. Tiene la palabra el ministro de Universidades del Gobierno de España.
I would like to give the floor to the Minister for Education of the Spanish government, Minister Castells. Good morning, Deputy Director of the UNESCO, dear authorities, dear colleagues. On behalf of the Spanish government, I would like to reiterate our support to the WHEC 2022 organized by UNESCO, with the support of the Spanish government in close cooperation with Barcelona City Council, the Regional Council of Catalonia, and the Catalan government, the Catalan Generalitat. So 4 institutions working together to make sure the conference will be a major success. The conference will take place in the framework of the Barcelona Science and Innovation Capitality, which will be for sure reaffirmed by the Spanish government, both institutionally and with a humble budgetary allocation contributing to the capitality. Barcelona has been playing this role for a long time, even in very difficult times. And I believe Barcelona will play an even more important role in an international scenario that requires of reference points in the area of cultural and scientific excellence. Both elements are interlinked, hand in hand with values such as humanity and solidarity, values where people goes first, or humans are at the center, right? And in this context, scientific education plays a key role, and Catalonia and Barcelona, in its center, have a long-standing university excellence tradition. In the last 20 years, Catalan universities have been scaling up in the international excellence rankings. Nonetheless, today is a special day. We live at a time when we'll have to do a qualitative step forward. UNESCO is the most relevant global education organization in the planet. UNESCO has been for a long time promoting excellence and solidarity. And UNESCO has taken this initiative of, well, UNESCO is now in a very interesting debate. What universities will be relevant in the 21st century? So the conference, as it has been said, is not one more conference. It has to be a key conference if we all contribute to it, as it was the case in Barcelona in 1992 during the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games in Barcelona were a turning point for Barcelona and an excellent example on how a mediatic event can have a real impact on the city and on values such as solidarity. So we are at a turning point, and that's how we need to read it. All the institutions contributing to the organization of the conference, we have had an amazing opportunity. Universities, I've been always part of universities, is a very old institution that has permanently adapted to social change. Sometimes a little bit slowly, but universities have always preserved their foundational principles, independence and rigor, even in very difficult circumstances. That's why universities have always been freedom islands, identity islands, islands where to tackle ignorance and obscurantism, because ignorance kills, darkness kills, and it's happening right now during the pandemic. Science plays a key role because without science, we are left in a situation of extreme danger for humanity as a species. And in fact, I believe that we still face this danger until all the planet is vaccinated. And while we leave science as the last option, because when a mutation happens, science also mutates and adapts. Nonetheless, universities in the 21st century needs to be re-examined on the basis of the same values, but it has to be capable to adapt to important disruptions, first of all in the area of knowledge and teaching. We all know how important research is for universities to correct a certain. Sometimes we neglect the importance of research, but once again, it is very important to underline that the reason of being, the raison d'etre of universities are students. Teaching, educating, empowering the youth and the less youth. Education to make sure they can have access to a job and an independent life. This is the reason why universities exist. Otherwise, we would be a research center. And there are, in Spain, in Europe, and in the world, research centers which are not universities, and this is very good. But universities have to place students at the center, and thus quality teaching has also to be at the center. And that's why universities need to adapt to extraordinary changes in what is called accumulation and production of knowledge and teaching and learning methodologies. Let me give you an example. Online learning, e-learning, well, Catalonia is pioneer in this field thanks to the presence of UOC, Online University of Catalonia. The project started in 1965, when in fact there was no university in the world operating only online. But there's another element that needs to be taken into account. Digitation. Sometimes digitation is confused with e-learning. Digitation is much more profound. The capacity to introduce IT technologies and new pedagogic methodologies in the education sector is something new, but it's already a part of all universities, right? All universities are hybrid today. There's a hybrid composition between face-to-face communication and online communication. We communicate with our students via email. We can send our PhD thesis online and so on and so forth, right? And we can set up virtual interaction systems. Would that be the best option? No, the best option is to go for a hybrid model that includes broadband. And broadband, the broadest possible band, is interaction between people. It does not exclude other options. As we have been able to learn during the COVID-19 pandemic, we've learned how important it is to have as many communication mechanisms as possible. But universities cannot only stick to an adaptation role. We need to Let me insist, science is key, and science is possible only on the basis of research. In Spain, 2/3, let me underline, 2/3 of research takes place in universities. And that's why the role of universities in research, which is not contradictory with excellence in teaching, has to be reaffirmed. Universities in the 21st century will need to be a combination between science and research. This is the new paradigm that also needs to include new values that are being reaffirmed. First and foremost, sustainability. Environmental sustainability, that is. The capacity to make sure that our great-great-granddaughters can inhabit the planet. And this is not for sure. We are not going towards the right direction. To that end, we're going backwards. How can we revert the situation? Well, scientists know it. We all know it. Scientists have provided all the relevant information to that end, but we are still blocked. And this is not only the fault of a few governments. It's also us, citizens, because governments will have to respond to the needs and pressure expressed by citizens politically and socially. The problem is that there is no awareness about the problem, the major problem we face in terms of climate change. And how can be this changed? Well, only through education. Education at all levels. And that's why we have UNESCO working with us, right? And supporting us, humanity. And higher education needs to be the change lever of our mindsets and thus our societies and governments. In universities, we produce mindsets, values, individuals, committed individuals. So it's not only about putting together debates on sustainability, but also it's about guiding and leading the path by setting up sustainable universities. We did so with a pilot program in UAB a few months ago. So it's not only about a narrative, but also about a hands-on practice. And we need, of course, to walk the talk and be coherent. And there's something which is even more important, and this is not a political will. Universities need to adapt and need to lead the greatest cultural transformation of our times. Gender equality at all levels. We need to feminize universities. Well, in fact, universities have been feminized, but not its values. Me personally and the Spanish government in general is concerned by the idea of, we are working to work on a feminist university. We do not focus on a gender-balanced universities. No, we want feminist universities. And this is what we are doing from the Spanish government. And we are approving bills, organic bills and acts that impose gender parity, that put an end to gender inequalities in universities. To give you an example, next week we will present a report on the topic of the pay gap in Spanish universities. The report, I'm not going to give you any spoiler, but it's not good news. And the report shows the crude reality in terms of pay gap. Well, to respond to that, we will pass an organic act to make sure that in each university there is a salary register, a payrolls register organized by gender. We need to stop with this absurd narrative where it says, well, more or less everyone earns the same salary. No, it's not the case. So I believe these are good examples of the transformation ahead, not only in Spain, but in the world. We're speaking about a new paradigm of universities that is being possible thanks to changes in different countries. And UNESCO is the organization that at the global level can articulate all this change and legitimize them. And UNESCO has decided that this is going to take place in Barcelona. Is this by chance? I don't think so. Of course, Barcelona is one of the most attractive cities in the world, probably the third one, according to some rankings. But Barcelona is much more than that. Barcelona is about values. It's a symbolic alliance. The alliance between UNESCO and Barcelona is here to stay. It's going to be a long-lasting alliance. My hope, and all the institutions represented, the City Council, the Spanish government, the Generalitat, and the Diputació, will work to make sure that in May 2022, we are capable of coming to a turning point towards a new paradigm, a foundational paradigm for the university of the 21st century. Of course, we're at the 21st century, so we need to go beyond that, right? We need to adapt to our historic times. We need to go towards a logics of a university which is bright and capable of dissipating the darkness around us. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, ministro. Y con las palabras del ministro acabamos.
Thank you very much, Minister. And this is the end of the official presentation of the World Conference. You are all welcome to a glass of cava and some snacks. Thank you very much to all of you, and I hope that the conference is going to be extremely fruitful. Thank you very much once again.